Hey everybody, we're live. We are talking Candyman, and with my good friend Jessica Dwyer, and we're surviving the pandemic and mourning the fact that we are not at Comic-Con. And she's actually with my good friend Jessica Dwyer, surviving the pandemic and mourning the fact that we are not at Comic-Con and right, and all and Howard Hound and every place else, right?
And man, yeah.
And I'm actually making a video. I'm doing this little neato thing because I'm saying, hey, like that. We're talking, okay? And okay, let's talk seriously.
So let's talk Candyman.
About Candyman who don't know what Candyman might be about.
So Candyman is based off of a short story that Clive Barker wrote in parts of his Books of Blood series called The Forbidden. And it's the feature film that came out in 1992, starring the legendary, beautiful, amazing Tony Todd as the titular character, is expanded and changed slightly from that original story. But that film changed horror, and it changed also how African Americans are portrayed in horror films. It gave an icon to African Americans in the horror genre that they'd never had before, really. I mean, you had films like Night of the Living Dead, where you had the hero and you had Ben played by, blanking on his name, but Night of the Living Dead was a fantastic entry because the hero of the film was a black man who it was for the first time ever not specified that he was. And he just got the part because he was so good. Dwayne Jones, I just popped in my head. And so you had that, you had Sugar Hill, then you had your blaxploitation films, right? And you had the beautiful and wonderful William Marshall, who played Blackula, who elevated it up to another level like Dwayne Jones did. But after that, it became a running joke that African-American characters in horror films were the first to die, or they were the comedic relief. You never had a seriously taken character. You know, the closest was Blackula, but still, with a name like Blackula, a lot of people didn't take it seriously, and it was an elevated material. It was supposed to be just a throwaway blaxploitation film, but when you put somebody like William Marshall in the cape, it works. And so Candyman comes along, and you have an actor of the caliber of Tony Todd, and you have Bernard Hughes who takes this material, and then you have Philip Glass who makes this beautiful music, Virginia Madsen who looks like an angel, and you have a story that not only is a horror film and has, gore and effects and things like that, but at its heart is a romance and is a tragedy on the level of Romeo and Juliet. And you have a character that isn't one-dimensional. Candyman has a lot of levels, and Daniel Robitaille, who is the character's real name, has levels, and there's a tragic beauty to him thanks to Tony Todd taking the time with Virginia Madsen to create this relationship. And so the story proceeds that it also talks about the plight at the time, and it's still not gotten any better, of racism in America, our history, how Blacks and are treated and kind of discarded and have their own culture that they've built around their own misery in a way, with these stories and with the slums of, like Chicago and Cabrini Green. And it talks about that. And it talks about how racism destroyed this man and created this monster in a way. They created its own monster. And it also, one thing that is missed, I think, by a lot of people is the fact that it also talks about the plight of Helen, who is Virginia Madsen's character, who is trapped in a marriage where she is, as a woman, is not respected, is treated like, oh, that's all right, honey, pats her on the head. Her husband is a philanderer. He messes around on her with his own students. He's a user. He piggybacks on her brilliance as a writer and a student. And in the end, Candyman releases her and allows her and helps her to find her own power in becoming the myth, just like he is. And in the end, she guts her husband. Spoiler alert. And it's hilarious because I remember seeing Candyman in the theater in 1992 and just falling in love with this whole story, the levels to it. As I got older, I realized, because it came out when I was 17. I realized the levels more as I went along, and how just amazing it is how it all came together. And I remember in the theater at the end, when her husband, played by the amazing Xander Berkeley, who I'm friends with on Twitter because he's awesome, who dies in everything, by the way. Xander Berkeley dies in everything. He was in Terminator 2 as John Connor's stepfather that gets the spear through the face. He dies in everything. He was in The Walking Dead a couple seasons ago, and he got killed in that. It's like he has a vendetta against Sean Bean to see who can die more. And he actually takes that seriously. He's like, he wants to be the one to die the most. But I remember in the theater when he's looking in the mirror and he starts saying, Helen, Helen. And we all started counting. It's like, oh, snap. We know how this is going to go. And it did. And it was amazing. So Candyman himself is an urban legend who is, thanks to Helen's need to learn and find out the truth, if it's real, why has this happened? She's a graduate student, and she goes to Cabrini Green and starts interviewing people about the murders that have happened there, and it turns out she's actually the reincarnated love of Daniel Robitaille, and he tells her, be my victim. He does that voice that Tony Todd can do. And it's seductive and romantic, and at the same time terrifying, because they've turned him into a monster. And yet at the same time, he's right, because you can live forever as Story. And that's his whole thing, is he's eternal because he is the story, and the story never dies. And at the end of the film, Helen becomes the story.
What do you think? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Why do you think Candyman has been so popular and repeated and become a cult film?
I mean,
one could say it's race, but as a black guy, that I need more, and I'm saying, because, I just want to know, what is it about Candyman? And I don't mean to ask this critically, but I ask for the purpose of conversation, for people who might want to, who'd ask the same question, but may not know how to ask that question,
Why is Candyman so popular? I think it's because, firstly, there's not a lot of representation in horror. And what's funny is African Americans are huge horror fans. Right. And there's a demographic there. You can see it. It's huge. Like, if you haven't heard of that fantastic documentary, Black Noir, I think it's called Black Noir, that was on, and it's becoming an anthology series on Shudder. It's crazy to me that there's not more films. And I think part of the thing is also is this is an amazing story. And you have, I can't stress enough how much I love Tony Todd, because he brings this gravitas and power and seriousness. Like, he takes it seriously. Like, a lot of people could have just, Candyman could have went one other way. Like it could have just been a basic slasher movie and not been what it is.
Here's what I'm getting at. As a white woman, does it make you see some aspect of white culture differently?
It doesn't make me see it differently, but what I like what it does, because I know
Whatever white culture is,
yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. What I see within it is two 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 peoples represented in a way where they get their revenge, and at the same time, how this script and this story was done was able to do that in a way that wasn't schlocky, in a way that isn't overt, like, ha, I'm getting you back, you son of a bitch, it was done beautifully. It's like a beautiful fairy tale, a dark fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast.
You mentioned something in our conversation that piqued my interest in another way, because you said that the interracial romance between Tony Todd and Virginia Madsen was taken out of the film.
So what happened, and I've talked to Tony about this, and got nominated for a Rondo Award because of this interview that I did with Tony. Didn't win, but I got nominated. I want to see this cut of the movie really, really, really bad. So what happened, and this is kind of goes into some people don't. Candyman is easy to politicize. And to some people, like they'll see it as, well, this is just, the white chick wins the day for everybody. And she saves all the black people and she saves the black baby and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is the love story. And the point of the movie is the tragedy of the love story and how racism destroyed this couple and created a monster. And that's I haven't gotten to see Nia DaCosta's new movie, but I've seen parts of it, and I've interviewed Nia DaCosta, and I've talked to Yahya Madin, who plays in the new film as the lead, about the new film.
Is she white?
No, Nia DaCosta is a black woman, which is amazing. She's a black woman who directed this film.
Oh, I mean that, but I mean, is there the same racial subtext in the story in
this new film? Right. So no, actually, from what I have seen and what I have gathered, it's a different aspect of racism that's represented here. It's evolved. And so in the first film, it was all about the love story.
I just want to get something straight in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
it's a sequel.
But there's no interracial love story.
It doesn't focus on the love story as much as from what I've gathered of what I've seen in this new movie. That's part of it. That's one aspect of it. But the story here in the new film is about gentrification. And it's about the lead character, who is actually the grown-up baby from the original film, that is saved by Helen, and when she dies, he has grown into this very urbanite artist who's very slick. He's very, he's not had to suffer, like other young black men have. So when he comes back to this area that used to be Cabrini Green, it's no longer the slums or the projects. It is now this beautifully manicured area, and they've kind of moved all the lower income people away and hid them over in this other place, like row houses that kind of similarly look like slave quarters, which is interesting. So this film is really about the fact, and what I've gathered, and this is me taking from what I've seen. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. Is that there have been numerous Candymen at this point. And what the scene that I saw with Coleman Domingo, who I absolutely love, great actor, is in Walking Dead, actually Fear the Walking Dead, is the scene where he is just talking about Candyman and how there's been numerous ones. And the reason they have to have them is to not forget what keeps happening and is still happening to this day. And so there's Yaya. And if you look, you see how he's just, beautiful guy. He's very clean cut and everything. He's an artist, and he's taking photographs of these houses there in that photo. And he learns it's almost like he's forgotten about Cabrini Green. He's forgotten about how horrible this life was and these things that had happened.
Oh.
And so it's interesting. Again, this is one of these smart, there's Nia, these smart and how they use this subtext of horror to talk about these things that no one wants to talk about. And so in this film, you see his character, I keep forgetting what his name is in this. It's Anthony. That's right. Mm-hmm. Anthony, who, by the way, I have to say, Vanessa Williams plays his mother again, who was in the original film, has not aged at all.
No, she doesn't age.
She looks freaking same.
About her.
My God. Her and Angela Bassett, man, I want to know what virgin blood they're drinking and where I can find it. Anyway, so in this film, you have Anthony's character who returns back to his home, and that has all been, it's been gentrified. It's been rolled over. It's been cleaned up. It's no longer the same. And
I have the cast list, by the way.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up here too. And so what starts happening is, in sort of a reversal, you have Candyman taking over Anthony the way the gentrification is taken over Cabrini Green. Wow. And so you've got this character slowly losing himself to something else, which is the same thing happening there. And it's a reminder of the history. People? Yes, he kills people. So there's lots of slaughter happening. So if you haven't seen the trailer, in the trailer, it's very obvious that Anthony is slowly becoming Candyman.
Huh.
He's being possessed. And that's where you see the reflection of Tony Todd's face in the mirror of the car. And you see him you see Anthony covered in blood, and his art. He actually creates an art installation in the film that has a mirror where you can be dared. There he is, be dared to say Candyman 5 times, and if you do it, he'll show up. And there's Coleman Domingo, who is amazing. But so yeah, it's an interesting. It's with the first film, it was about the racism and how it, talking about Cabrini Green and talking about how, it was also focused on the life of Story and how Story keeps things alive and how people are kept alive through that, and the history is kept alive through that. And so with this film, it's about the current issues that we have. And I love how they utilize it, because that's really what, Story is for. And urban legends are for. And that's why I think Candyman is so popular, because he personifies the power of the word. And I really love that.
There's also Casey Kramer playing Helen Lyle.
Right. So Helen Lyle is in this, and Virginia Madsen is in this, but she's not playing Helen. So they have there's been a recently released clip that talks about how Helen became her own myth as well. It kind of changes up a little bit what happens in the original film with her, but it's really cool, and I can't wait to see everything all together. They brought if you haven't seen that really amazing shadow puppet trailer that's out there, because they use the shadow puppetry in this movie.
I wonder the way it's showing it without. Let me see here. I was out here looking for candy. Let's see here. I can. You know what I should do, rather than the volume,
is just mute it. You don't need to have sound. I mean, right. Unless you want to play that beautiful music. But you can, yeah. If you go to YouTube and look up Candyman shadow puppet.
Man is very scary.
You just don't know how to mute anything.
I just did. I muted it. There it is. See, it's fine.
So the puppet trailer. What's beautiful about that is it goes through, and like in this film, like I said, there's been multiple Candyman, and the reason is to remind us of what keeps happening. In the shadow puppet trailer. They show basically over the years the different kinds of abuse and horrors that African Americans have suffered. And one of them is a little kid in a hoodie being shot.
Trayvon Martin.
Yep. Wow. And they show that in there. They start off, of course, with Daniel having his arm cut off and everything. But yeah, that shot's really cool too, because the row houses, it shows them that they moved everybody from Cabrini Green into how they look like a hive again. Like it's still a hive. There's Virginia Madsen.
That's a wild scene. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, no, I love it. I've seen every clip I could find.
That is though, right?
Yeah, that's the 5 girls doing the saying candy. They regret that decision.
Isn't that Virginia Madsen?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's Virginia Madsen, but she's not playing Helen. She's playing a different character.
And these are the 5 girls doing what?
They're saying Candyman in the mirror 5 times, and they're going to be sorry they did that. And there's Vanessa Williams looking like the same age that she did in 1992. And we're supposed to believe that Yaya is her son, which I'm like, what? What? No. But yeah, I love Candyman. I've bought everything I've been able to find of it. I love the look of him. I think again, and what's great is Tony Todd. I've had the honor to moderate panels with him on them, and moderate the Candyman reunion panel that we had at Horror, which you can watch online. It's there. But that had Ted Raimi, Bernard, the director, Xander Berkeley was there, Tony was there, and we got to talk about this whole film and how they came to be. But I just love it because it was, I'm sorry?
Is this the stick figure you're talking about? That one?
Yeah, this is just look at that. There they are, him coming to life and the cops. There's one that's 2.5 minutes long. That's just the shadow puppets. And it's the theme from Candyman playing while they're out there, but it's just so neat.
Who's Nia DaCosta?
I'm sorry?
Who's Nia DaCosta?
She is the director of the film, and she is a African-American woman who is directing a Candyman movie, which is amazing. And she has done, she's done a few things, but this is like the biggest thing that she's done. And she is since
her motion picture.
It's one of the biggest things. One of the bigger ones she's done. She's actually directing the next Captain Marvel movie.
Oh, that's right. That's where I've heard that name before.
Yeah. Right. So that's a huge deal because we got it's all female representation, and you've got a female director of a Marvel film, and it's pretty great. She's fantastic. I had such a good time talking to her.
By the way, FYI, folks, for those of you who don't think that men are capable of making something that's all female, I produced a 2008 panel for Women in Sports and Events, all female, 8 pioneers of new media. So you're wrong. I just had to get that in.
But it's pretty amazing that he's getting to do this stuff. It's fantastic. She's so knowledgeable and so savvy. And I when I talked to her about this film, it was, she got the context. She knew, what we needed to design it to look like, and the levels to go with it. And mind you, she also co-wrote the screenplay. And of course, Jordan Peele is directing, or not directing this, but producing. And a lot of people keep saying, oh, Jordan Peele directed it. No, he did not. That's very important. Nia did this. She directed it. And I love that. Again, I can't stress enough how cool it is that you can take this character and mold it into this metaphor. It's really, really important. And again, I can't stress enough how cool it is that Tony Todd has created this, because he not only played Ben in the remake of Night of the Living Dead that Tom Savini did, but he's also been a part of Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And he's created one of the most heart-wrenching Star Trek episodes ever, where he plays the older Jake Sisko that meets his father after his dad's lost. Mm-hmm. And he's very good at taking genre roles and making, bringing out the importance in the story in them. He's a fantastic actor. And anything you see Tony Todd in is going to be elevated because Tony Todd is in it.
That's right.
But so Candyman is just, to me, it's the reason I love it so much. Not only is it Clive Barker, but it's a story about the power of story.
And Dave Compton came in late because Jessica's under a time limit. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to boogie here in a minute. But yes, Dave, he did make a great Klingon.
After you've seen the movie, when are you gonna see it?
When it comes to streaming.
Are you not going to see it in the movie theater?
Mm-mm. I can't, man.
COVID?
Yep. I am one of the wonderfully immunocompromised because I've had cancer twice.
Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord.
I would love, I'm so angry. I cannot begin to tell you how angry I am that I can't see this movie in theaters, because I have waited 3 years.
I'm surprised they didn't stream it someplace simultaneously. Well,
3, because the last time,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to be posting a video with my interviews with Nia and Yaya on Zinni 62. It's just audio, guys. Sorry, you can't look how pretty Yaya is, or Nia. But you'll be able to hear them. And by the way, Yaya was Black Manta in Aquaman. So yeah. But they're really great interviews. Just keep in mind that when I covered this movie and got these interviews, it was 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago, just about, because this movie was supposed to be released right before COVID hit. And when COVID hit, it got pushed. And what was happening also at that time was Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. Really went into swing. And so when you hear these interviews, that was happening massively at that time. Like, it was a huge thing. It was going on at that time. And that was why this was such a perfectly, at that time, perfectly timed release. And it still is, sadly.
Well, we will have you back, and I plan to see it too. So, folks, Jessica, so stick around in the backstage. You know the drill. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. This is automatically up on Zenny62 YouTube. It's also at oaklandnewsnow.com, and you will be able to watch it in all its glory. This interview.
Where I babble a lot.
It's all meaningful babble. That could be a great T-shirt. Meaningful babble.
Meaningful babble.
Right.
Yes.
That is his job.